One thing that I have always been really passionate about in my own life, but also in the work that I do for my clients, is just everything comes from your vision for what you want your business to be like, for what you want your life to be like. And I think there are so many pressures on us. There are so many reasons why we come up with a very restricted view of what we can have and why we're allowed to have it. And I think a really key thing for all of us is to really embrace that ability to make the choices that we can. You know, if you're not happy with things in your life at the moment, why not? What would you like it to be like? Give yourself permission to have that discussion with yourself and start to draw up a blueprint for the life and the work that you actually want.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host Zia, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experience and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And for now, our guest, Jessica Fearnley, is a business coach, host of the 7-Figure Consultant podcast. She has a career background in project management and business development and has worked several different businesses over the past decade and helped 6-figure B2B consultant women add revenue streams and cut working hours. Jessica was also amongst LinkedIn Top Voices 2019 Entrepreneurship and Small Business. Welcome, Jessica. We're thrilled to have you today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, for the first question I had for you, Jessica, was you've had quite an exciting journey so far. Can you tell us your story about how you came to start Jessica Fearnley Business Coaching?
Sure. So it's not like a stereotypical success story in a way. So I did history at university. I did an undergraduate degree, and then I stayed on to do a master's degree. And I had done some project management before I actually went to university. I did things kind of the opposite way around. I didn't go to uni when I was 18. I actually went when I was 21. And during those 3 years, I managed to get some quite good work experience under my belt. So I came out of the other side of university very sure that I was going to go into project management, and I got a job in London working for an educational charity, and we had this amazing office right on the bank of the Thames, and I was just like, I am living my best life, and really loved it. But I had some quite serious kind of chronic health and stress issues going on at the time. And it just became more and more obvious that as much as I had chosen this life for myself, it just wasn't actually working for me. I loved the work. I loved working where I was. You know, I could see lots of opportunities opening up for me in the future, but my health was not good. And so I actually went through burnout 11 years ago now. And that felt like the end of my corporate career at the time. And I had a period where I didn't really know what I was going to do next. And for someone who has always been very sparky, very enthusiastic, to kind of get to that point and just think, was that all for nothing? Am I going to work again? Do I know what I'm going to do? So actually what I ended up doing was taking some time out and really finding more about kind of who I was as a person, which I think if you are a high achiever, you know, you put yourself on this track and you just think, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And, you know, if you're like me and you're a big planner as well, we've got all the details worked out, but actually to take that time and to say, okay, so who am I as a person? If that doesn't work for me, what does work for me? And so that was a process of really self-discovery, I guess. So I started out doing part-time work, and then I ended up running a startup consultancy firm, which really I'd always wanted to go into consulting longer term in my career anyway. And in that role, I was actually running the whole business and bringing in a lot of my project management work and business development work and business planning and stuff that I really loved. And so through the course of that, we took the company from a 6-figure turnover to a 7-figure turnover. And then the company was subsequently sold. And around that time, I also had my first child. So I think that was also a bit of a watershed moment for me in terms of just thinking, I don't know if I want to be a commuter anymore. I don't know if I want to do kind of work outside of the home anymore. And that is the point where, sort of having tried different ways of working and having changing circumstances myself, I started out on my own journey of building my own company. And yeah, I guess the rest is kind of history at this point.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing to see how, your career kind of like things that, you thought unexpected things that didn't seem like were gonna work in your favor kind of shaped your path and brought you to where you are today. And it kind of goes to show, that when we push our limits and we're pushed by, our circumstances, things can and do sometimes really work out when you start finding yourself. So that is extremely inspiring. So you have worked with so many women consultants before. I'd love to know what you think is the single most quality in women that they really need to let out in order to be successful like you.
I think mindset is a huge, huge thing for women in any profession, but particularly in consulting, because actually women come out of a corporate career and they're used to being told what they're going to be paid, how things are going to work. And suddenly you have this business of your own and you can actually call the shots yourself. You can decide which clients you want to work with. You decide your own rates. You decide everything and how it's all going to work. And the thing that I see most of all is that actually women kind of go, oh, I don't know. And there can be this almost race to the bottom. And I think sometimes people want to be told what they're worth. Whereas in this kind of setup, you have to be confident enough and brave enough to go in there and say, actually, I am worth this. I am worth being paid at a higher level. And not, I've spoken to so many women who have almost used minimum wage as the metric of what they should be paid by. And you just think that makes no sense. But I think that the most important thing is to have that confidence and that ability to see your own value and worth. Don't look to other people to set that for you. It needs to be something that you're very decisive about yourself.
That's a very, very valid point, and I'm sure that people who watch this are gonna really like take that when and consider that when they set their own value. And it is so important. It is so important to have the right mindset. So, how do you think women consultants can live out their full potential and avoid the glass ceiling effect?
Well, I think the really excellent thing about being outside of a corporate employer and a corporate career is that you suddenly have all this freedom. You have this ability to set your own goals. So if you want to be paid more, you raise your prices. You don't need to talk to your line manager and negotiate with HR and all those kinds of things and look at pay scales and provide an evidence file. Nothing like that. If you want to change how things happen, then you get to just do it. And that's why mindset is such an important thing, because actually the limit that you decide for yourself, and I think this is very common for men and women, but particularly women, we can often get a sense of, I can go this far but I can't go further. And when you develop your mindset, that's when you start to say, why have I drawn the line there? Why can I go this far and no further? And start to question a lot of those narratives that you have for yourself, a lot of those limiting beliefs. And so that is the most important thing I think that we can be doing. And not just, if you feel instinctively, I can go this far and no further, why have you drawn the line there? Why is that something that needs to hold you back? And I think it's a gradual process. It's one of growth. When I started my business, I had no concept of mindset and I had so many limiting beliefs. And it just becomes part of your routine of running your business. It's when you find that resistance, when you feel that actually you're pulling back and you're not going for something in the way that you should be, and you're telling yourself, actually, I don't think I can do this. That's the moment when you most need to dig in and do your mindset work.
That is amazing to hear, and I think it is so important for especially women. And it's amazing to see how women have grown so much in the space of entrepreneurship, in the space of even corporates for that matter. Like recently there have been so many women leaders that have come out strong, and it's amazing to see, and it's so inspiring. So let's talk a little bit about the current situation. There have been a lot of changes that have been happening lately, and a lot of businesses have been impacted remotely. What's the one change you've noticed in the world of consultancy, and how do you predict it will look going forward?
That's a great question for the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And I really think one of the key things that has changed this year is that there is suddenly a real acceptance of women as kind of three-dimensional people. And what I think we've seen, for a lot of my clients, they predominantly do their work face to face. And so suddenly they're having to come online and bring their services and bring their meetings, bring their discussions, their whole way of doing their business. That's something which has to come online. And actually, I have to say, this is something I've discovered in my own business over the last 5 years. that is an amazing thing for women, because straight away it means that you do not have to be traveling long distances. You don't need to be doing all the commuting. If you have kids, you can suddenly arrange all of that without leaving your house, so you're not kind of running around all over the place. You can achieve so much more when you take out the travel time. But I think one of the big things that we're seeing is that, historically women have had to pretend in the workplace that they don't have children, because that has a negative impact. It has a negative impact on how you're perceived by your employer, by your teammates. You need to be seen as someone who's not distracted by the fact they have children. And so it's a really complicated thing for a lot of women, and for parents as well, because I think it does impact men as well. This expectation on ourselves to be fully present in your career, but also be present for your children. And so many women, their own self-care gets squeezed out in that equation because they're already trying to do the impossible. And I think what we've seen this year is that has come to a real extreme of women literally trying to homeschool the kids and look after kids who aren't even in school yet, and also do their own jobs and kind of keep on top of all of these things. And I think it's been a bit of a breaking point for a lot of people, and rightly so, because it's more than is reasonable to expect someone to do. And I think one of the really great things that's happened with all of the Zooming that we've all been doing is that people are starting to realize that actually, yes, sometimes women have children in the background. They have family members in another room in the house, because actually they're not in this kind of sterile environment where all they do is work. And I think, just even the fact that now we're starting to have like a bit of a Zoom culture at work, where people actually show bits of their house to people on their call, and you get to see someone in their home environment, which is a very personal thing actually, and it's something that is often kind of sterilized out of corporate culture. So I actually think there's been a lot more acceptance of the fact that people have lives outside of work. And for women particularly, I think this can only be a good thing, because actually one of the most difficult things is to negotiate a work from home arrangement with your corporate employer. So that's kind of taken care of this year, and I can't really see that it can be rolled back all that much from this time to come. So what I think is actually a really positive thing to come out of it is actually this amazing opportunity for women to get the working conditions that really suit them and help them to balance the different priorities they have, without actually having to massively sacrifice on their own well-being.
That was actually amazing to hear, because I feel like usually when you talk about the current circumstances, there's always so much negativity around it. But it's amazing to see that, there is a positive side to all of this that even personally I had not thought about. But, that personal touch to work and, enabling women to kind of have both is something that I think our audience and even I think it's something that is actually very good and is going to have a really good impact. So I guess that is one silver lining, you could say, potentially. And yeah, that's a very good perspective. I'm very glad you brought that to light. So lastly, I would like to know, do you have any sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with today?
One thing that I have always been really passionate about in my own life, but also in the work that I do for my clients, is just everything comes from your vision for what you want your business to be like, for what you want your life to be like. And I think there are so many pressures on us. There are so many reasons why we come up with a very restricted view of what we can have and why we're allowed to have it. And I think a really key thing for all of us is to really embrace that ability to make the choices that we can. If you're not happy with things in your life at the moment, why not? What would you like it to be like? Give yourself permission to have that discussion with yourself and start to draw up a blueprint for the life and the work that you actually want. If you can't do that, then it will always be really, really difficult to achieve your goals and get to where you want to be. So getting comfortable with that ability to make big changes in your life. For me, in my life, that has not been an easy process at all. It's involved a lot of personal work. It's been massively painful at times, massively uncomfortable, but at the same time, what comes out of the other side is such a positive thing. So yeah, it's quite a long soundbite, I guess, but I think just really get clear on what you want life to be like, what things really matter to you, and then spend the rest of your time working out how you're going to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah, that was not, I don't think that was long at all. In fact, it was very, very valid, inspiring, and useful, and very, very important and significant. So thank you for that. And Wonderful. It was a pleasure talking to you, Jessica. I really appreciate your time and you sharing all of this with us, and I'm sure our audience will too. So thank you so much for coming on here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.